to Zimbabwe. May I take this opportunity to reiterate that my government is ready to hold peaceful, free, transparent, fair, and credible elections. As I conclude, Mr. President, let us seize this opportunity to celebrate the enduring spirit of the Russia-Africa partnership that promises to illuminate our shared path and propel us towards a future brimming with hope, development, and prosperity for all our peoples. I think we need a more regular Russia-Africa summit of this nature. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Спасибо. Большое спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear friend, I would like to say the following in response to your remarks. First and foremost, I thank you for your assessment of Russia's input into the development of our relations with Africa. Sanctions are introduced against those who do not want to play by the rules that were drafted by someone else. In this regard, we support the idea of the most of people present here about the need to increase Africa's role at the United Nations so that we live by the rules that were not written by someone else and imposed on us, but rather according to the norms of the international law. Yesterday, we discussed these things at our bilateral meeting, and we will develop our bilateral cooperation. I now give the floor to the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat. Your Excellency President Putin, President of the Russian Federation. Mr. Azali Assoumani, Chairman of the African Union and President of the Comoros. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Heads of Delegations, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. First and foremost, I would like to address you, President Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and thank you for organizing this summit and for inviting the African Union to it. I would like to thank you for the warm welcome accorded to us by you personally, the Russian government, and the Russian people. In October 2019, the first Russia-Africa summit took place. And today, many people came to St. Petersburg for the second summit. The second Russia-Africa summit is taking place in a polarized world context, characterized by war between neighboring countries. I would like to raise this delicate issue to highlight the importance the African Union attaches to peace and respect for territorial integrity as well as sovereignty of states, and the principle of good neighborliness and settling crises via negotiations and compromises that would be mutually beneficial. These are the principles inspiring the African Union in this fraternal conflict that negatively affects two countries and the rest of the world. It is based on the principle of justice that we need to settle these conflicts. Naturally, we are concerned with the supply of grain. The grain initiative must serve all countries of the world, African countries in particular. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, As part of this Russia-Africa summit, the African Union follows the logic of the 2063 agenda, namely mutually beneficial cooperation. And we think that partnership should be based on bilateral cooperation in the name of achieving our own objectives without detriment to other countries' interests. It was in the same spirit that the first Russia-Africa summit took place. There, we adopted a declaration that outlined the framework for our cooperation. And given the impact of the economic context related to the COVID-19 pandemic and the absence of active work or progress, it is rather limited. Institutionalizing partnership requires certain conditions, namely establishing a joint commission that would work to implement the plan of action adopted under the declaration. Speaking of our specific action to implement the above-mentioned plan, we need to be very clear and very swift in galvanizing our partnership and giving it a new impetus to improve our relations in the interests of our peoples. Also, let us not forget the assistance that the Soviet Union provided to our countries in our fight against colonialism and apartheid. Africa has a surface of 30 square million kilometers. Over 1 billion people live in Africa. Rivers, forests. We have tremendous potential when it comes to human and natural resources, and it is a vast market. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, the Peace, Security, Development Triad is the slogan of the Russia-Africa Summit and Forum. It is within the same spirit that we need to ensure that our objectives are reached. Besides, we also discuss energy, infrastructure, transport networks, digital technologies, trade, peace, security, development. These principles and ideas will be outlined in our joint declaration. Naturally, we also need to use the necessary resources in medicine, education, transfer of technologies in order to give a new impetus to all of these changes. However, our partnership should improve good governance and assist multilaterality in international relations. The Security Council reform is fully in line with these principles because it will remedy the historic injustice against all those Africans who are underrepresented in this vital organ. Ladies and gentlemen, the effectiveness of this partnership can only be measured by results. And the work conducted at this summit needs to enable us to measure our results and enable us to overcome the difficulties that we are facing. Naturally, 4 years is not nearly enough to assess our progress. And given the complex situation, we have our own concerns. However, we believe in this partnership. And the presence of the African countries here today is proof to that. We strive for tangible results that we will take into account. In order to overcome various difficulties that we are facing, we need to work and implement the 2063 agenda, as well as cooperate with Russia. And Russia-African Union cooperation is very important for these goals. The trade balance between Russia and Africa is balanced, but still there is room for improvement. Our investment and trade figures show that our trade exchanges have yet to achieve the limit of our potential. Our energy cooperation needs to be incentivized as well. In this area, we need to do our utmost to elaborate a joint approach and give us enough energy to industrialize our countries. Food security affects the development of our agriculture. In this area too, we need specific action. Strengthening our security, cooperation and joint fight against terrorism necessitate that we adopt a joint declaration on governing this area. My experience as chairman of the African Union Commission gives me the right to speak on behalf of the African Union, as well as the convergence points that were adopted together by all of us. We need to use facts and influence our daily life so that we could improve lives everywhere in Africa. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Your Excellency Mr. Mohammed, who already talked about that, and we'll be able to discuss the situation related to the situation in Ukraine. But we agree with you, all the contradictions should be resolved via negotiations. But the thing is that they refuse to have negotiations with us. The essence of the conflict is that the security threats for Russia were created by NATO. Once again, they refuse to talk to us when it comes to ensuring equal security for everyone, including Russia. And Ukraine also refuses to negotiate. They officially declared that, and the president of Ukraine adopted the relevant decree that bans negotiations. But we have repeatedly stated, and I said it officially, that we are ready to negotiate. We cannot impose these negotiations on everyone. That is why we need to talk with the other side, although we thank our African friends for the attention to this matter. As for Russia-Africa cooperation, of course, we have been working together. Our colleagues, our agencies have been working accordingly in order to put it into the declaration. And we are grateful to the African Union Commission for taking most active participation in this effort. Hopefully, as a result of our joint efforts, we'll adopt this declaration. Dear colleagues, dear friends, I would like to announce a short break. We have a lot of speakers on our list. We'll have a short break. After that, we'll have a working luncheon. Thank you for this joint effort.